get focused here. We're going to talk about some Prince. We want to talk about Dirty Mind. There was an anniversary recently of this album. We seem to always, there's all these anniversaries. But why not talk about Dirty Mind? Great album. So let's just jump right into it. Started off to say this album was released back in the day, October 8th, 1980. Can you imagine just in general, for those who were around, do you even remember 1980? Like,
I remember a little bit of it. I remember it was the beginning of New Wave, and at the same time, the urban cowboy thing was starting to happen. People were still rocking the Jordache, the Sergio Valentes, and
Sergio Valentes.
Oh yeah,
yes. Jordache jeans. This designer jeans was popping at that time. That was the thing. Yeah. It's funny. We're gonna go down the rabbit hole. Urban Cowboy. There was a movie as well, right? John Travolta.
Yes, it was.
John Travolta. I don't know if he gets his props or not, but I will say, man, he's always sort of been on the focal point of a lot of movements back in the day, like Saturday Night Live, the Fever thing, Grease, Urban Cowboy. You could say he was also in the action hero movement. Rambo and all that kind of stuff. I mean, man,
whoa. Travolta, what Rambo?
Oh, I'm tripping. You got me.
Were you thinking Pulp Fiction?
I'm thinking of Sylvester Stallone, and I get why I get them mixed up, because they were somewhat in a movie together in a weird way.
Staying Alive?
Staying Alive, yeah. I think it was directed by Stallone, right?
Yes.
Was that a true sequel to Saturday Night Fever?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh yes.
Yeah. That's why I got confused. But anyway, so 1980. Wow. The only thing I can't really remember too much specifically at that time, but I wanted to go back and look and see what albums, and I'm going to do the R&B albums. What R&B albums were popping in 1980, just to kind of give you an idea of, the area Prince's recording this album and then putting it out in.
I think Earth, Wind, and Fire had I Am. I think that was the one. Or was it Power Light?
Well, that may be. I'm looking at, so I'm just going to go by what were the number one albums. So it may not have hit number one, but I'm sure that probably was a big album at that time. So just to go real quick, the first one on the list here, and this would have been at the top of the year in January, from January to about February, Michael Jackson, Off the Wall.
Off the Wall, yes.
So to say right off the bat, it's in a world where Off the Wall has been released, and that was a very dominant album. All right, so you have that. The next big album, number one album, came after Off the Wall was The Whispers album.
Lord.
It's a love thing.
Oh, okay, shit, that's the cut. The next number one album was by the Brothers Johnsons, Light Up the Night.
That was Light Up the Night. Was it in Blam? Yeah. That was in Blam?
I can't remember.
Because that was Stomp and Strawberry Letter 23.
Well, yeah, so those are...
Strawberry Letter 23.
Those are jams. The next one was the Isley Brothers, Go All the Way.
Yep.
Classic album. Another Jackson. Salute to Joe, man. I don't care what nobody. Salute to Joe. They dominate all the time. Jermaine Jackson, number one album. Yep. Let's get serious.
Okay.
So 900,000 copies.
Did I read recently that Jermaine didn't write that?
That sounds like I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't. That, to me, why do I think that's not Stevie Wonder, was it?
I think it may have been Stevie.
It sounds like Stevie.
I could see that.
It is Stevie. I looked at it. Yeah, right. It is Stevie. Actually, I've seen Stevie play this song.
He wrote it.
Some videos. Next up, one of my favorite albums. I didn't know it was a number one album. This was from July 12th, July 19th. Cameosis.
Could not tell me.
Yeah, that
was the one, man. Shake your pants. Shake your pants.
So many hits on that, man. And I got onto that way late, but woo, banging. Another big album after Cameosis that was number one for quite some time here in the charts was Diana Ross with Diana. album. You know, what Upside Down, You Turn Me. I mean, big hits. Big
Was that
hits.
one coming out on that one too?
I believe coming out is on this. These are like the Nile Rodgers jams.
Nile Rodgers, yep.
Yeah, he had to go to the hit maker. All right. Now we're getting close to Prince's time. Because Prince's album, what I say, it's October 8th. So the number one album for a couple months, actually, George Benson. Just give me the night.
Right.
Hey, boy, my mom was. Woo! My mom was in. There was two people my mom was into: George Benson and Rick James.
Okay.
Now, if I was to ask her today, she'd act like I don't know what I'm talking about. You know, Rick James, I'm Christian. But you know what I got into the drug. Where'd you get the drugs from? I got it from you, Mom. This is what all of what I listen to. I always tell my mom, you was the one, James Brown. I mean, I about Rick James and all that. But yeah, Give Me the Night, big hit. Big Sexy, you were gonna say something.
You mentioned Rick James. I was going to mention 1980. I do believe, and Rick, you're my man, but Rick had a little bit of a misstep here with that Garden of Love album. Mm-hmm. Remember him being on Soul Train wearing the skinny tie and the loud suit, and he's calling his music no longer punk funk, it was fun wave. I'm like, the fuck?
Lord.
No, man, no.
Interesting. Okay. Rick's going to come up in the conversation later as well. All right, so let's see. Next after George Benson, this was on number one for 1 week. And at first when I saw the name, I didn't recognize it, but now I know what the song is. Tom Brown. Love Approach. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's the cut. That's the cut. I was playing that the other day. Let's see here. This was the debut album by this band. The number one album for a couple weeks. Zap. The album Zap. And those are Warner Brother label mates to Prince. The next album, when I had this album back in the day, I was playing this heavy. The Jacksons, Triumph.
Lovely one. Yes. Yeah. Heartbreak Hotel.
Yeah.
That's a good song.
And then to end out the year, and he came and shut it down, as he should, Stevie Wonder with Hotter Than July. So, you know.
Now, if I may, I got to represent my rock guys.
Go ahead.
And a little bit of New Wave, because New Wave was really breaking big, and the biggie was Freedom of Choice by Devo, which had, yes, Whip It. That song was everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
The late John Lennon's final album, Double Fantasy with Yoko, came out that year. I mean, there's just so much going on. You know, Talking Heads did a little something. They started to make their move. David Bowie started to make his move. Back in Black, AC/DC. Oh, yeah. A lot of music. It's all starting to come back to me now.
All right. So, yeah, so it was a lot going on back then. And, you know, back then, Prince was not a household name at this time. He was not, you know, depending on what part of the country you was in, you may have heard of him. But I know, like, for me here in Seattle, zero. Now, I'm not saying nobody else in Seattle wasn't, but I'm just saying in terms of, like, you know, the mainstream and all that, no penetration whatsoever. Pause. But I think it's important to say, you know, for the people who were into Prince at this time, predominantly, it was the, you know, black music. They would call it urban radio now, or black radio. Mm-hmm. You know, he was an R&B act at this time, and I think this album is, and you know, I'm sure you guys can say it better, was the album that really kind of broke the door open for him in a much larger way. And I think in a lot of ways, from what I've read and stuff, this was the album, I think the rock, quote, rock critics and the Rolling Stones,
yes.
you know, when these types, and that's why we talked about this a couple weeks ago, at this time, these magazines had clout. Like, they would co-sign your career and you could be on some other shit. So when they took notice back then, it's a big deal. And I say, as opposed to today, who gives a fuck? But back then, this is why when people keep talking about them today, it's based off of that back in the day, right? They were one of the gatekeepers of the game. And I think you start to see some of those critics like, oh, this dude Prince, he was he's bubbling over here. We don't, he's in a different Chitlin circuit almost kind of situation. We don't really not paying attention to that. But this dude right here, this album, they kind of got their eyes open. To me, I almost look at it the same way I look at like with a lot of early hip hop. For people who was in that world, you knew all about these artists. But for the outsiders, it was just kind of like, that's cute, But we're over here talking about AC/DC or whatever. That's what we're focused on. And I think for this one was like when you saw a lot of early rap, when the people who were really into music that would listen beyond sort of their genre, and they were like, yo, this Prince dude, somebody you need to be paying attention to. This dude is a killer. This dude is cold. And I think this was the album for Prince that kind of took him. People started paying, who weren't paying attention before, who probably didn't listen to the first album. They saw this and saw something that they could identify with and was, okay, this guy could be a problem in a good way. And I think, you look at the singles and the releases of his albums. I think this was the first time. Well, maybe not first time, but you can look at the release and see like it charted high on the black charts, but it was like barely even noticed on the other charts, the mainstream charts. With that said, just want to go around and get some thoughts on this. Aunt Pooh, are you still there, sir?
Yes, I am, sir.
What's your thoughts, man, on Dirty Mind? The title alone is funny to me. Like that's a 1980s. Somebody would say, "Oh, you got a dirty mind." Like you would never say that. People say that today. Are you're talking dirty to me? That seems so old school. But go ahead.
Well, me at the time, I was 3, so of course I missed this whole thing. I didn't become aware of songs from this album until 1996's Waiting to Excel, where, if I remember that scene in the club, the DJ was mixing up Head, and I was like, damn, that's a banger. It's like, who doing that? And then when I did my research, I was like, oh, I was like, what? I'm like, this is fire. And of course, I've always seen the infamous album cover with the Speedo and the Rude Boy jacket. Mark, please feel free to correct me if that's not the proper term for that jacket.
Well, the trench coat with the Rude Boy little button on it, that they were everywhere.
Right. So yeah, but just overall, when I was finally able to sit down and really hear the album, I was blown away by it. Twofold. One, I felt it was really minimalist, which of course I later found out that, well, the story is, I don't know if there's a confirmation on this, that these were demos that Warner wanted him to, do one more round of edits. And he was like, nope, do it, release it as is. And then the other thing was just the music and the subject matter, how it varied from song to song to song. And it just overall, it doesn't seem thematic, but at the same time, it does seem cohesive to what he's singing and where he was at that time. And I think like I didn't feel it was that groundbreaking because, again, I'm listening to it almost 20 years after the fact, but I can, as you're telling me these albums and thinking back to 1980, and here's this black man putting out these songs in a genre that traditionally isn't for black people or doesn't let black people get in. It is very groundbreaking and amazing what he was able to do and what he put out.
All right. Absolutely. And, I wanted to bring up Rick James again as well. And I think it's important to note that this album was made after Prince, opened for Rick. And we've heard all the stories about that. But to me, looking at what I know of Rick James and looking at this, I can see the influence. Like, okay, kind of when you just start to put the whole chain of the events and how things influence things moving forward, I find it very interesting that, there's a certain image of Prince at that point, goes to see Rick, gets some game, gets out there on the road with a big act like that, and really kind of can see like, oh, this is how shit be working. And, you see the effect of what you do on stage with the people and how they're playing your music. And then you see what this guy who was the man, Rick James was the man at this point. You see what he's doing and he wild. I could see how Prince was like, okay, I think I know the blueprint. Let me go back to the lab. I got something for their ass. I got some. If I was in the movie, I would have a scene where Rick is acting a fool, all in Prince's face. And, get that little midget out! This is my show. Fuck that! And Prince goes to the bus, and then he sees Rick with holding Vanity's hand or something like that, and then Rick sits in the back of the bus. You know what, chick? I got something for their monkey ass. And then it cuts the head in the studio. But anyway, Big Sexy. What say you, sir?
Well, there is a lot to unpack here. Like Ant said, excuse me, yes, this was essentially demos, and, he took them to the label, and the label's like, no. Prince is like, yeah. But what's really interesting, though, is this was his third album. And I believe the original deal with Warner's, this was it. This is the third one. He was, fulfilling his commitment. And on the second one, they're like, dude, we want a hit. Okay, fine. Goes back in the studio, comes up with I Want to Be Your Lover. And now he goes a completely different direction with this, because I remember when the second album was out, I'm like, okay, yeah, nice little dance hit, yeah, whatever. And then he comes out with this, we're like, what? Whoa. And then the rumor was there was a song called Head on it, and we're all like, oh, we gotta have this. And so it's great to see that Warner Brothers at the time, which was under the stewardship of cats like Lenny Waronker and Mo Austin, they will let an artist develop and grow into what they're going to do and take chances. And they got behind Prince. As we all know, when he signed with them, he's all, look, I produce my own stuff. And they're like, no. He's all, yeah. And they let him do it. Will that happen today? No. And so when he came out with this one, like you said, Mike, the rock press ate it up, because at the time it was something completely different than what anybody was doing. It had elements of new wave here and there, had elements of funk, elements of rock, but not like no one else is doing this. And that's what really got him the reputation and got people's eyes on him and really helped him do his thing in the next contract.
Yeah. And what I wanted to ask, do you see that, would it be fair to say that this is similar to Rick James's kind of style, or no?
At that time, no, because I remember, again, when you look at Rick back then, and for me, when Rick came out with Busted Out, he was running shit. So he goes from Busted Out to Fired Up, again, running shit. And then all of a sudden, what was that first really big dance new wave song, Funky Town? That comes out.
Okay.
And now we got new wave coming all over the place. And then Devo's doing their thing, and Whip It was everywhere. Mm-hmm. And so Rick comes out with Big Time. And again, I remember seeing him on Soul Train in the suit and the skinny tie and the little shoes. I'm like, the fuck is this? And then he called it Fun Wave. I'm like, oh, Rick is done. But to Rick's credit, he rebounded strong with street songs. So I don't think Prince was doing what Rick was doing. If you look at both albums in 1980, no.
Okay. Violet Brown.
Yeah, this is an interesting one for me. I'm listening, and all I can think is my parents. This is my parents' Prince, put it like that. So I didn't see a lot of images because my dad really wasn't feeling the look. I just heard the music. He would play these songs, and I heard them, and I would jam, and I was young enough not to know what the heck they were talking about, which is a good thing. And then later on, listening again, I start thinking, dang, Dad, why'd you let us listen to
Ratchet?
Like, what were you thinking? Like, yeah, something, Ampu was talking about it as far as it being connected all the way through, just the lyrics, not even, the melodies of the songs, just the lyrics. There is definitely a theme with this album. Now, I personally loved the look that he had at that time, but like I said, back then I wouldn't even have been conscious of of any of that stuff. And Daddy didn't put those posters up. My mom was a fan, but she did, she wouldn't have, not with my dad there, had those posters up. So I didn't see the look until much, much later.
Wow. Yeah, it's, like I said, my first encounter with this, I don't know if it was in 80 or 81. And I've always said this before, but I went to Houston, and I just remember my cousin, she took me to somebody's house, and I think Controversy may have been out already, but they played Head. And it was like this whole little kind of secret thing, like, oh, did you hear? And I was just listening to it, and I didn't think nothing of it. It was something like, I had never heard nothing like it before, and I thought it was interesting, but I didn't see the picture of Prince, and I just knew it was something that they liked, but I didn't know anything else about it and never heard anything else about him for a few years. But listening to it years later, I was just blown away that it just sounded so different at the time from like Purple Rain, Around the World in a Day. And I was just like, oh, this is the same. I always say, this is the same guy. I kind of remember hearing this, but I didn't know. And listening to it today, in today's time, it's a fascinating record to me because it just sounds so, I don't know the words to describe. It sounds so raw, I guess is the easy way to say. It sounds like he just plugged in their shit and they, must have made it at home and didn't worry about taking it to some big studio and get it super mastered and all this kind of shit. It was just like, we're not putting a whole bunch of shit on this. We're just you play this part, and it's done. And it works brilliantly like that. I mean, it sounds like it is so much more alive. It doesn't sound overproduced. The sounds of the synths and the drums sound even more clear to me than the previous albums in a different way. Like sonically, it doesn't have this big boomy, major label sound. It sounds like somebody just did it at their house, and I can respect that. And I think his songwriting just continued to get better. The stuff he was incorporating into the songs got better. I think the way the vocals are so raw sounding, like in your ear. I almost wish some of the other albums could follow that. It would be interesting to hear what some of the later songs would sound like recorded in this manner. But for what it is, I think it's a great, brilliant record, man. It's so different from the record that came before it, and it's so different from anything that came after it. Even though you can hear the elements of it in the other records, but they're not recorded like this. Even Controversy sounds like a higher budget recording than this.
Yeah.
Okay, but you all know Ampu got an Ampu. So I hear what you're saying, Mike, and it definitely works for you. That's your opinion, and I'm not crapping on you about it. But for me, the sound is a little issue for me. I feel like it could have been punched up a little bit more.
Okay.
But keep in mind, you're listening to a recording from 1980 on contemporary equipment. Keep that in mind, because that's one thing that I'm going to name drop here, that Bernie Grundman told me before we did the Sign of the Times recording. So I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like the beauty. Well, there's many beauties of it, but it's in the same way the beauty of the first Wu-Tang album is in the way it's recorded. The way it sounds is what made it stand out from everybody else. It wasn't slickly produced, and it wasn't done in some great studio. It was done in an apartment, raw. I think it's the same sort of raw element energy that Dirty Mind has, the same with 36 Chambers album. Like there's certain albums that have, that's part of the charm of it, that's part of what it is. It would have been a different record if Prince had recorded this back in, was it Sausalito or whatever?
Yeah, record plant, yes.
In that studio, it would have sounded way different. But I can only imagine it was probably since it was the last album on the contract. And it's like, well, shit, man, you don't have that much of a budget. Do you want to blow all the money on this, or do you want to use some of that money to live on and do some of this other shit you want to do, Prince? He's like, well, fuck, I can record this shit for half the price myself. and blam, you know, and come out with a bomb, and probably was able to like, okay, I don't know if this gonna work, but if it don't, at least, you know, I might still have a little bit of cheese. But I'm just speculating. But to me, that's kind of what made me think of why wouldn't he go in the big studio and record this? There was obviously a reason behind that. Whether it was
shit money,
more yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like he probably was like, oh shit, did I just turn off my router? Hold on one second.
Damn, Mike.
Oh, I think I clipped it as long as my internet didn't go up. But anyway, yeah.
I was just going to say that for me, as far as the raw sound, it matched the visual. Like if you go back and look at shows from that period, what he was giving you, it's less polished. It's just a different kind of energy than what you would get. Like say those Purple Rain tours, it's all great. It all sounds fantastic and all that, but just the way he moved, the way he sounded, everything, there's just these little differences that I think you can also hear in that particular album that I like. It's simple, but not in a bad way. Sometimes less is more, and that's what I get from this one.
I can dig that. I wanted to jump into some of the lyrics here real quick, because this song is such a classic song to me, and it's interesting in today's world. So I want to read a little bit of Uptown. Saw me walking down the streets of your fine city. It kind of turned me on when she looked at me and said, come here. Now, I don't usually talk to strangers, but she's so pretty. What can I lose if I just give a little ear? I love how he said, what's up, pretty girl?
That's my favorite part.
I ain't got time to play. Baby didn't say too much, but she said, are you gay?
Are you gay?
Kind of took me by surprise. I didn't know what to do.
Go ahead, Mike, get
it. This is pure Prince. He said, I just looked her in her eyes and I said, no. Are you? And I would have added, yeah. But said to myself, she's just a crazy, crazy, crazy little mixed up dame. She's just a victim of society in all its games. Woo. And then he ends it out with, where I come from, we don't let society tell us how it's supposed to be. Our clothes, our hair, we don't care. It's all about being there. Man, I think that would rock today.
Nope.
Like I think it would, man.
Nope. You know why?
Go ahead.
I'm going to go ahead and start shit now.
Uh-oh, here we go.
Uh-oh.
A certain group would hear that phrase, that line about, are you gay? No, are you? And first thing it is be, what's wrong with being gay? Why can't he be gay? How do you know he ain't gay? You know, he could be gay. See, and it's like, fuck.
But that's why I say it would rock today.
Oh, it would start some shit today, yeah.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying to me it would be rebellious as it was back then, maybe for different reasons. But I would love if, and it's particularly if it was a black man who sang this today and was like, they said, "Are you gay?" And you said, "Nah, motherfuckers, you." You know that it would play so different today. But I think it's a cold line back then. It'd be even colder today. Like,
no, are you?
Yeah, and get out. You know what he say? She's just a crazy little mixed up dame. You're just a victim of society.
Yes,
and all its games. And that's what to me, I said. That's why it would be a hot topic today, because it's society. It's the dominant society. You'd be like, nah, you can't say that.
Yep.
But we like, when we don't tell them, we don't have society don't tell us how it's supposed to be. We don't care. To me, this is the same energy. Prince was doing this first, but it was that, sort of reactionary rebellion type energy. Like, nah, we're not going for that. I don't care what they say. That's not how we get down. We on Uptown. We don't go by their rules. And I think this energy is missing today. Now, you're right. He probably would get canceled, but nonetheless, it's the same energy from back then. It was the same energy of a PE. It was the rebellion energy. Rebellion is missing from the game right now.
I agree completely because I had to step away for a moment and had a little computer issue. But now in today's climate, if you're going to be a rebel of any type, they're going to come for you. And it's just silly. Where's the room for the individual to do their thing? No, you got to follow out with the rest of us. Fuck that.
Yeah, man. This of course, and this was like the anthem type of song. To me, it was. Like, I still say that. I recite it like it's chapter and verse. Our clothes, our hair, we don't care. It's all about being there. What's the other one? White, black, Puerto Rican, everybody just a freaking. You get good time. Exactly.
Sorry.
Started dancing in the streets. As part of it, I didn't even know the real words because we started dancing in the streets. I don't even know what he said. I just had to get some hand, Just bullshitted that part. Girl, she's just gone mad. Yeah. She even made love to me. My man said it was the best night I ever had. I don't usually talk to these motherfuckers. See, that's how I interpret this. I usually don't talk to strangers, but this time it's all right. Conspiracy brother, I don't really talk to these white folks like that, but this time it's all right. So y'all know what I'm talking about. But she got me hot. Couldn't stop. Good times was rolling all night. And man, I love this song, man. What's the other one? Party Up?
Yep.
Then we come to find out later, that's Morris. We playing on the record. Somebody's moving around a lot there. We can hear you.
Sorry about
that. Any standout songs for you guys?
When You Were Mine.
Oh,
that's
absolutely.
A great song.
Absolutely.
I just posted on Facebook that it takes 21 days to build a habit, and I'm on day 5. So yesterday, when you popped this up saying, "Hey, we're gonna do Dirty Mind on," was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday. We're gonna do Dirty Mind on Saturday. So for my my new me workout, I put on Dirty Mind, and after the first song, Dirty Mind, of course, classic, love it. And then as I was getting to the end of the song, I was thinking, next is When You Were Mine. I'm like, I ain't really feeling it. Really? But then when I first couple beats, I was like, damn. And I started jogging more. I started getting this little speed. And then all of a sudden, because I know all the people that was driving by, seeing me sing out loud to myself, was thinking I was a little crazy. I was like, yeah, I'm going to get clowned on the show. I can't believe I was thinking about skipping this song. This slaps.
Yes, it does. And it always has.
I don't know about that. But for me, two things that I have to say about the song. One, I think only Prince could have written a song like this. Yes, there have been songs where men talk about their woman cheating, stepping out, and whatnot. I instantly got to thinking about Drew Hill's In My Bed. And the way that song goes is it's like he found out, he caught her, and he's like, God damn, I can't believe this chick did this to me. Prince's story is like he went through this and he was accepting. It's like, even when he was sleeping between us, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
You brought him over for a train. You didn't have the decency to change the sheets. And that's like, and you stayed with her? And it seems like, it's not like he caught her. It's like she left and he's still opining. And while he's recounting all the trifling things she was doing to him. And I'm just like, the vulnerability, the salaciousness. And I'm just like, who writes a song like that? Especially a wannabe, and I'm only saying wannabe because at that time he was on the rise. A wannabe mega rock star, I feel, doesn't write a song like that. But Prince did, and it's just it's so telling of the type of songwriting skills he had.
Absolutely, yeah, man. Any favorites, Violet?
My favorite on this album is probably Uptown. Between Uptown and Head, I love both of those songs. But I like When You Were Mine. And one of the things about this album is watching him perform these same songs years later and looking at what he does with those songs. It makes you go back and appreciate them even more. So like there's a, and I'm sure y'all have seen it, that Montreux 2009, he does a version of When You Were Mine.
Yo, somebody's playing music. What's going on?
Lots of things are happening today. But he does a version of When You Were Mine, and it's this song is more rock like, and y'all know I like those songs where you have to dance like Carlton. This is, to me, this is another one of those. But I dig it though. I dig it. I like those kind of songs.
Why did I instantly start doing that?
Because that's what you do. Because that's what this song is, one of those songs. It just is. But I tend to like songs like that. So I liked this song the first time I heard it. Now, but this is also one of those, I got a little bit older and I started listening to the lyrics like, what? And I thought of, so Ampu said it reminded him of Drew Hill. I can't remember the name of this group, but there was a song called Special Kind of Fool back in the day. That's what this makes me think of, is because like,
Special Kind of Fool.
I don't know if you
remember now.
Yeah. But it makes me think about that because it's like, sir, like you following her now after she done left you for this. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. And then this also, the last thing I'll say is this is, because I like God and Broken Heart. I like all of these songs. Their only song, and this album contains the one Prince song that I will not listen to, and that's Sister. And I've heard it. I will never listen to it again. I'm good. But of all his albums, this is the only one that has something on it I won't listen to.
Okay, Violet, the name of the group was Basic Black.
Yeah.
Was this a 90s group?
Yes.
Okay, sounds like it.
I'm like, what that mean?
No, I love it. I love it. The 90s is a special time for R&B, but that's another show.
Yeah.
Well, Sister.
Yes, it was.
Sister is the outlier song. I think to me, his whole catalog. I don't think there's ever been another song like it.
Thank God.
And it's, to me, it is just, well, I'll say this. I like the song because I've heard it so many times. But it is, to me, just like Prince saying, like, you know what? Let me just shock everybody. I need the clout. I need the attention. They can't ignore this. It's just because this is so over the top.
For sure.
You know, I would have loved if he just, you know, if there was ever a time in his career where somebody would ask him, like, yo, man, just like, you don't have to explain your songs, but Sister. Like if I would have ever had a chance to interview him, and if I had got him comfortable, man, come on, just you can give me one. Just tell me about Sister, man. Like what was?
Yeah, I'm good. What
was you thinking on that one, bro? Like,
yeah, no, just no.
For me, these three sentences. It's like, it was wild, but when I finally got a little bit older and was deducing what he was saying, I'm like, she don't wear no underwear. She said it only gets in her hair. And it's got a funny way of stopping the juice. When I really figured out what the hell he was talking about, I was just like, that's wow.
Which I don't have a problem with those lyrics. Those lyrics are cool with me. But then when you go, your sister, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm out. I'm good. That's how it's a no for me.
Yeah, that's.
She showed me where it's supposed to go. A blow job doesn't mean blow. I was like,
wow. We're talking about spirituality. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, that's not it.
It's like, I think it'd be great if the chorus was in "Oh Sister."
Yeah, no, that's where you lose me there. Like I said, because, you know, I like a good dirty lyrics as we talk a dirty mind. I'm good with that. But again, context. And then when you start talking about family members and stuff, I'm out. I can't help it.
What if the estate, they did a special edition and they retitled the song and it was called Sister? And they tried
he's just talking about a chocolate girl that he likes. I'm cool with that. I'll take that. I will work with you on that.
Oh, you would be okay with that? Boy,
but if his
outrage
sister,
would be heavy. Like,
Yeah, but I would dig it.
it would actually be a Dave Chappelle style moment because like I know it's gonna trigger you, but then it's like I'm gonna throw this out here as bait because who's gonna cape for the other ideology, right? Like it's almost a setup. Like, oh, you're gonna cape? Well, let me hear you. That's a Discord moment waiting to happen. But another thing, real quick, and I'm going to Ampu. You also got to remember too, this was made in the days of the album, and specifically made of days of vinyl LPs. So the side 1, side 2 is important. You know, the way the album is structured is because of that. And I think it's a great, like those first 4 songs is side 1 of the album, if I'm not mistaken. And then you flip that over, and it's a wrap from Uptown to Party Up. That's Sister would be sort of the quick intermission to go get you a drink real quick at the party, or or go wipe down for a second. But this whole side this is the party right here. Party Uptown, Head is going down, and you probably gonna have to go wipe up after Head. So that's that throw Sister in, and then you come back with Party Up. I mean, it's a brilliantly structured album. Because I don't know if that's lost on CD or streaming, but if you can keep that in your mind, like you would have to, it was an experience. You put Dirty Mind on, and the way that just comes on, and you got to put your mindset in the Prince fan of that day. Like all you had was those first 2 albums, and then this comes on. You're like, what is this? This sounds way, and he's taking you through it. He ends you with that little slow jam kind of thing. The first side is, could arguably saying some simping, the simp side. And then you flip over.
You actually,
you flip over the other side, and it's a whole other nigga on that side. Like, he's getting it in.
When you were mine,
and he's not, he's rallying the troops. He ain't going to war. He out in the streets. And he's getting his blowjobs, and that other side is a wild, the revolutionary side. So it's a dope album, man.
That's true.
It has to be said. When You Were Mine might be the ultimate simp song. If we put together a top 25, it's number 1.
For sure. I mean, when he was sleeping in between the 2 of us, yeah, I'm gonna put that at number 1. Yeah.
And then he's
never in life. Exactly.
It's like I've had some. It ain't made me never stalk. I like to be some worth stalking, but I ain't done that. But for me, Party Up. I discovered that in 2002, 2003. That it's just a really dope, fun, just get your ass on the floor dance song, and he has a message up in there. So, I mean, bravo to him. Actually, bravo to Morris.
Yeah, man. That album's. That song, Party Up. Just to read a little bit. We don't give a. The song starter. We don't give a damn. We just came to jam, Party Up. That army bag, such a double drag. I was thinking about that the other day.
Wow,
I don't know any other artists. Was that a slang term back then? Double drag.
Yes, and I always think how square it sounds now. Like that's when people would say you were square. I was thinking about that the other day, a double drag.
Because he says that in a couple of didn't he say it in the 1999 albums and what a double drag. So I was like, that's a Prince.
Double drag, dig up, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. See, this is
and
me
he says
listening.
Drag and Uptown too.
You see, this is me listening to this through my 2021 ears. Because when I hear that army bag, I'm thinking about the bag, the money bag. Right. And, I'm thinking about how, they kind of dangle the bag to these youngins. Oh, you can get education. You won't have a job. You can get these GI benefits. You can go to, all that, the bag. But, he was literally talking about that army bag. And I'm like, wow, okay, I get it.
I think
it's not my bag, baby. What type of deal?
Yeah, and I guess we have to remember too. This was 1980. I guess you're still feeling sort of the cultural aspects of the Vietnam War and the draft and stuff, right? Because he mentions they got the draft, which I don't think they had a draft in 1980, did they?
They didn't have a draft, but you still had to register for selective service.
Right.
Now, that did not mean draft because we weren't at war, but I will say now as a 50 year old adult. When I finally registered for Selective Service, I put it off as long as I could. Because
they still do that now.
I don't believe so. Now, going back to what Ant said, and what you said too, Mike, a couple things. Yeah, double drag makes sense because, it comes from the original 60s and 70s. Man, that party was a drag, man. Mm-hmm. So if it's a drag, man, if it's a double drag, it's worse.
right.
And
so not only is it a drag, it's a double drag.
And to me, you can also interpret it as you literally dragging the bag behind you type thing. And like you said, it's a double drag.
All right. All right.
I'm thinking Austin Powers now when I hear that.
Oh, yeah.
So pick up my bag, baby. Come on now.
One of the lyrics I like is, because of their half-baked mistakes, we get ice cream, no cakes. All lies, no truth. Isn't fair to kill the youth. And I'm just thinking, I'm just, the part about we get ice cream, no cake. It just seems so... to me, it feels a little out of place, but it kind of just goes into how playful he is with his lyrics, and it kind of does make you think like, ice cream, no cake. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. And when people listen to the most recent released album, and it was like, he never was this political or never this direct, you can go all the way back to this album right here, and what you just read, Ampu. He's been saying this all the time. He's had anthem rebellion songs about the system since back in the early days. So that's a part of Prince, man. That's why I was like, this is dope.
One thing about that song, this was in 1980, as we know, and he did the appearance on Saturday Night Live. But the thing people forget is that was the time of Saturday Night Live. It was after the original cast and before the Eddie Murphy, Joe Piscopo cast. So nobody was fucking watching. Which sucked. I defy anyone to name 3 members of that cast other than Gilbert Gottfried. Can't be done.
Shoot, I didn't know he was in that cast. Got
exactly. And they all got fired.
Oh boy.
They were terrible.
To wrap it up, the release singles at this time were Uptown. 101 on the U.S. pop charts, number 5 on R&B charts, number 5 on the dance, and then Dirty Mind came next, was 65 on R&B, and then I think that was it for the States. And then he did one more, Do It All Night, for the UK. There's no chart information for that, but he went on tour to support this album, and I think the tour and getting out there, even though this may not have been a big seller, laid the groundwork to be like, okay, this dude is, we got to keep our eye on this cat,
Yes.
And then I think for his fans, or, for people in that sort of genre of music, he sort of follows this up with, I think, I don't have it in front of me. I want to say The Time, first album.
Yeah.
Controversy. But, leaning heavy into his funk and all the things that he sort of becomes known for, and creating a new sound, his sound and stuff. But yeah, this album really busts the doors open on the Prince that we even know till today. Just that outrageous, the Rude Boy. It was the Rude Boy era. Started that off, right? That was a big thing back then. Any final thoughts on Dirty Mind?
I think we have to talk about some of our favorite live renditions of these songs, right? And, for me, When You Were Mine, if you guys can find it, there is a Love Sexy rehearsal boot where he has it really stripped down with the horns in it. And it is just really phenomenal. There's a part, like in the album where it comes to a stop. And he does it, which, in the concert, he breaks into blues in the key of C. And absolutely, you guys got to find it. If you are looking for it, it's the one that has that Prince comic book cover. That's where I've seen that they've used it as an album cover. It's a really good rehearsal boot. And then Dirty Mind, I always loved the way he performed it at the, I think it was a 1981 Paris show. Really good rendition of it. And that Party Up that he plays is the best version I like, even over the SNL performance.
All right. Violet, any final thoughts?
Not really. The only thing I would say add is I had a conversation with a different set of people, and we talked about how Head basically is like a precursor to Darling Nikki.
It's a precursor to WAP as well.
Yeah, you don't.
Precursor to what?
Oh, gosh.
To WAP.
Oh, hilarious.
I'm going to leave that where it is. I'm going to leave that where it is.
Please.
I think is it precursor to, what was it, NWA song?
Oh.
She swallowed it? Or,
Yeah.
Oh, Lord
Yes.
have mercy.
Niggas for Life album. Anyway.
Uh-huh.
That's Prince, man. He started it.
Oh, no.
You all right? I learned it from watching you.
Yeah. Big Sexy.
You know, what I take away from this album the most is missed opportunity. The Dirty Mind tour landed in San Francisco in March of 81. And at that time, I was deep into the Bay Area music scene. They played over at the Stone in San Francisco. And for some reason, I didn't go. Fuck.
Oh, man.
And I could have gone too, because I was working with, at the time I was still working with Journey and Santana a little bit, and so I was really wired in.
I was just name dropping, huh?
Gotta do what I gotta do. I was just really wired in, so I could have just walked right in. But
Man.
I know what it was. I didn't have a car. That's probably what it was.
Oh.
Didn't want to take Bart over there. That's what it was.
All right. Well, there you go. Dirty Mind. If you haven't listened to this album recently, please go listen to it in full. You will find that you'll be like, man, I need to get back into this. It's a beautiful, great, raw Prince, a must own in the catalog, a must listen.
Oh, yeah.
Switching gears for 1 second here. Speaking of music, we saw on the news recently that Tina Turner recently sold her music catalog. I'm trying to find it, how much it was. I see the dollar amount here, but she sold it to BMG Music. And my understanding, she sold all of her songs along with, it's said to be in a 50 million and above category of money. It sold her songs and apparently her likeness. And her name? Is the name?
Yeah.
But yeah, so, which is interesting. I don't know if that's normal for these types of things. And it's interesting. We've been talking about this over the last year or so. We've seen many of these quote unquote legacy artists selling their music rights. Bob Dylan, I believe, sold his, right? For
Bob Dylan, Stevie
400 million, 300.
Yeah.
Red Hot Chili Peppers, Neil Young. You said Stevie Nicks. A lot of these people have been selling stuff. My question to you guys is, and I know when I ask you this, it would never happen. I'm not asking if it would ever happen. But I'm asking you, what would be your thoughts if the Prince estate decided, let's sell Prince's catalog? Because, hold on.
I'm sorry.
It's because it's got a lot, obviously it's worth a lot of money. We see a lot of these other big artists, they've been selling their catalogs. But I would just want to get your raw opinions and thoughts of what if they announced that, after all the hula was been going on and the wrangling of the heirs and all that, if the people that were in charge of it just decided, you know what, let's just do the most business-minded decision that we think they want to give us $500 million. Let's take it. I'm going to go to Big Sexy first. I know you got a lot to say about it. What do you think?
Well, having or being a part of this conference on, on such matters, this weekend and next week, I do have a little bit to say on the subject. A lot of this comes into play here. First of all, you have two separate things going on. First of all, the estate, they hold the property in trust for the heirs. Now, I believe the heirs have, I think 5 of the 6 have sold out. their interest, I believe. But whatever. That one holdout, they still owe him a duty of care, and part of the duties of a trustee is to make it profitable. Now, having said that, if a trustee, with permission, decides to sell the asset, they can do that. However, you also have to look at what they're going to get for it, because one of the topics that came up this morning was a certain newer act wanted to sell one of a few of their songs, and they're like, why am I not getting the same multiplier that so and so got? A lot of the things come into play here are like, how can you use it? Now with the Prince catalog, which is pretty much unexploited for the most part, it should carry a pretty large price tag, but they could also go ahead and license it out and retain ownership. Because what's unique about the Prince catalog is it's all in one place. He wrote it all. He produced it all. He owns all the copyrights. And that's pretty unusual, because with Tina Turner, she didn't write most of that stuff. So the people who wrote it get a taste, the publishers get a taste, and so on and so forth. Now with the Prince catalog, because it is so intact creatively, for me to sell it, if they sold it, yeah, you said $500 million. Yeah, I could see that, simply because of the future potential income, because you could do a Hamilton play on it. You can license it to other films and musics. People are going to cover the shit out of it. Oh yeah, you have a lot you can do with it.
All right. Ampu.
I would be very, very disappointed. But at the end of the day, I don't know what.
Can I ask you why you'd be disappointed?
Because, and I probably am going to contradict myself, because we heard from Prince how he felt about ownership of his masters, about what he wanted done with his music, what he wanted done with himself post his transition, and then to have it given to either a studio or a corporation that's just going to go out of their way to just monetize and make all their money, I would just feel like, damn, that's kind of effed up. However, he didn't make a will. He didn't set all of this stuff in place. And people going to get triggered. He talked a good game, but he didn't set everything in motion to make sure that what we're seeing now, that people are arguing Prince wouldn't want it. Well, he should have put it down in paper that made it ironclad to prevent any of this. He wouldn't want Warner Brothers or Sony having his masters. He should have put it down. He should have designated or created a trust similar to Michael Jackson that had, his interests and hopefully would work on his behalf of how he wanted his music post-death. But at the end of the day, because he didn't set that up, and, it's now divided, it was divided among 6 siblings that, we don't know how they're doing financially, and they don't have, sorry, I mean, if it was my family member, if Prince was my brother or my uncle, I would do everything I could to keep that in the family. Like when you posted about Tina Turner stuff, my first reaction was like, why is she selling that? Why does she keep giving that to the kids? Making sure that stays with them, get that generational wealth. Because I look at the Waltons, none of them selling, and so the Waltons, they own Walmart. None of them sold their daddy stuff. So, but
not to shit on Tina Turner. Educate me. Besides "What's Love" and "Private Dancer," what other big songs does she have?
"We Don't Need Another Hero."
Okay,
"That'd Be Good to Me." "Simply the Best," which has to get used a lot. Of course, "Proud Mary," but that's not hers. She just her performance.
None of them are hers.
Well,
that's the key.
I'm just saying, as far as that's a remake. That's clearly a remake, but So
so you got $50 million. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's one thing to get $50 million for the music, but she sold her likeness, which I think is very interesting.
That's the one. Yeah, that's the one. What is that about?
CGI.
For Tina Turner. I would want to set up a trust, making sure that my kids, their kids, their kids, and their kids would eat off it, just like the Vanderbilts and the Rockefellers, the Hiltons, so on and so forth.
Does she
But
have
there's
kids?
a problem, though. She had kids.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
But there's a problem with that premise, because I'm going to steal from my favorite TV show, Billions. When you try to create a generational line of income, I believe the phrase goes: first one starts it, second one grows it, third one blows it. So when you look down the line, someone in that line is going to fuck it up. They're going to say, well, instead of license it, why don't we just sell it outright? And then you cut that line. So it's really hard to keep that.
But then that's why a Tina Turner or other musician goes to a Big Sexy Incorporated and finds out how we set this up so that they don't fuck it up. Kind of.
Well,
I mean, just like, do you think that they're going to fuck up MJ's estate?
You know,
he got it set up?
down the line, if Paris and Blanket, I forgot my man's name, if they have kids and those kids have kids and those kids have kids, it's very possible.
But I mean, doesn't he have like an ironclad trust that somewhat prevents some of that?
Well, there's a rule, and Violet, you know where I'm going with this. There's something in law called the rule against perpetuities that prevents, infinite control over an asset.
All right. Violet, jump in here. What's your thoughts?
So for me, I'm going to give a lawyerly answer. It depends. So your facts change. Because it does. The facts change how I would respond to it. Because one of the things that Ampu was talking about was, because we always get into, having a will and blah, blah, blah. But my thing is, who was he supposed to leave it to? He didn't have any children. He did not have a wife. Who did he trust to carry out what he would have wanted? You see what I'm saying? So I don't get why didn't he? Well, if he did, who was he leaving it to? And so then the people who are left behind, as far as some of the decisions that they make about what to monetize, what particular concerts should be released and all that kind of stuff, I haven't seen any expertise that makes me go, oh yes, they must keep it. So for me, when I say it depends, how would I feel? It depends on who they were selling it to. Like if they're selling it to a corporation that handles big estates like this and handles music like this and doesn't end up overly commercializing or tearing down the music in any way, I probably would be cool with it. As long as his music is being heard and not used in a negative way, I'm good with it. I'm not partial to his uncle or his brother. That doesn't, for me personally, that isn't, because he didn't leave it to them. He knew them. He was alive and he knew those people and he didn't make a decision to leave it to them. So I'm good. Whatever he wanted to do, that's his business. That's the way I see it.
And that's the key here, and I hate to really sound like a selfish, obsessed fan, even though we already know, it's still going to come out. So whoever's, holding the keys to the castle at the end of the day, no matter what they do, the music is still going to come out. Yeah. I can't see anyone saying, you know what, I own it now, fuck all of you, I'm not putting any more out. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's weird.
One, I would say is that if that happened, I wouldn't be shocked. First of all, the people who own or control of his estate is a major corporation anyway. Primary Wave, I think, has half controlling interest of it, so it's already big business. So it's not. So that's already established. Two things for me, just to go back what Big Sexy said, they would put it out anyway. I do believe that. I think in Prince's case, it would be very interesting because if a person did decide to delve into the stuff that Prince is talking about in the later years of the songs, and then it would be really ironic, I guess you could say. It's like, man, this was a guy who championed, all of this type of stuff, but is it just on the surface? Is he just running game himself? Because like you just pointed out, he doesn't seem to, the money that I'm using, the money that is being generated by me listening to this is not going to the causes he's talking about. It's the exact opposite. So on one hand, it does kind of matter. It makes the whole thing look like, man, what a history lesson, or what a learning moment, teachable moment I can look at and say, here was a guy who stood a lot of his career fighting for control, and then when he's dead, he has none. And the running game people he talked about, they're the ones who actually are profiting off of this and control it. And it is what it is. The other part I would say is, man, this is why our family is so important. Because when somebody brought up Walmart or shit, a lot of these major brands that are controlled by these families, I'm just speculating. I would imagine they'll do whatever they need to do to make sure that is not in the hands of the other people that they be trying to protect their stuff from while they're alive.
I'm sure they will.
They'll never be like, oh, well, I don't know. The NAACP wants to wants to buy a controlling interest in, this particular brand, the Rockefeller or something. Well, no, they ain't gonna have that. They but you're not cool with the distant cousin uncle. I don't give a damn if we cool or not. They ain't gonna have it. They have, they don't, and that's just the way that they think. Like, it's just, no, we're gonna keep that with the whatchamacallits. And I hope that we can start to look at that, so we can look at our Prince and say, you know what? We got to handle our business. We see how business works, and we sometimes be the only one that just thinks on business when it comes to generational stuff, where everybody else is like, we'll take the loss, but we're going to keep the ownership of this. God damn it. We understand power. We'll never give this. I think you see that in today's society, where certain people, even though they, I don't really stand toe to toe with this guy, but he is a Republican, so we're going to stand with him regardless of what we say to you up front. Yep. We're going to vote this way. I don't give a damn. We understand power. Damn if I really like that motherfucker, but he's on my side, and we got to keep it over here. So I just want, I want the next princes and the next whoever to keep that mindset, because I think it's important. Like, we're never going to win all the shit Prince was talking, like, if we only always think the way we think everybody else is thinking, because they don't think like that. They don't do like that. They're not going to allow you to come to buy up their shit, and it's just business. They take the L as long as they can control it, and they know further down it's more powerful to own this shit than to just sell it out. That's my opinion. I'm saying all right.
Yeah, look at Disney. The Disney family don't run Disney, but they own a large portion of it.
I think Prince had a lot of the similarities to Mike Tyson when Mike Tyson lost to Buster Douglas. At the time, Mike was king of the world, running things, had his team in place. And then one by one, those older cats started to leave him due to death, unfortunately. Then Mike made the mistake of getting in with Robin Givens and Don King. Fucked his whole career up. Now with Prince, he never let that happen, because no matter what you want to call it, he was distrustful of a lot of people. Now, he'll do business with them, but at a arm's length situation. Now, with his personal thing, the marriage with Maite especially, that didn't work out, because the loss of the children, and from that point forward, I don't know if he tried to have other children or if he recovered from that. But it was like, you know what? I'm not doing any of this, and I'm not going to acknowledge my own mortality. I'm not doing the will. Fuck all of you. But in later years, like last couple of years before he had passed, he was letting people have more control. When he let my man Josh Welton produce him, that was unheard of. And he was accepting his place as elder statesman and as tutor to these younger people. After he passed, would come out with his music with Mono Neon and other people that we didn't know he was working with. Like, oh shit, okay. So maybe he was making that transition to get into that, that space where he would have said, you know what, let me set something up for down the line. Like Violet said, he knew his relatives, and for whatever reason, he didn't put a will together naming them at all. So I'm not even going to read anything past the obvious there.
Well, yeah, I mean, so it just goes well. Unfortunately, a lot of families have a lot of dysfunction, man, for whatever reasons.
Oh God, yes.
You know, and he's no, you know, he's human, so he comes from the same sort of dysfunction as a lot of us came from. You know, where the parents broken up early, and he's shuffling around. You know, that stuff sits with you, and then to be elevated in the way that he was in his life, that also gives you a different type of mindset, I would imagine. And so he's got a lot of things going on. But to me, it just kind of going back what the aunt said, though, it just goes to show the way I view it is, man, if only we can get tighter so that there are people that can speak into somebody's life to be able to hip you to, yo, you smarter than this. But you don't know everything. Let me put you on some game. I know you mistrustful. All of us are for good reason. And you probably dealt with some trauma, but you can't let that'll kill you, bro. Like you can't take that to the grave, right? Because you're going to lose everything because you didn't want to get over whatever, sort of traumas that we have in life. But what you have is important. The thing I would have said to Prince, like, but you're not like the rest of us in terms of you mean a lot, man. And the shit that you've been saying matters. So it's important that the generations who hear this shit later, it'll be even more powerful when they hear what you say and then they saw what you do or what you did. And they be like, yo, that cat stood for something. He wasn't just speaking about it. His family or whatever, look at his thing. Let's run our shit like that. This is the blueprint. Let's follow this OG. He did it. He of course, we always going to do the music and we song and dance people. But what if we really lock down the business aspect of it so that we could continue this thing down the line and we don't just go to Paisley Park and give our money to somebody else who is just the asset, where we can go there and be like, oh, okay, this is our shit. This is what not only was it created off of the backs of this black man, but they still own this. We can do shit like, what I mean? That to me, 10 years, 20 years from now, that's what's going to be even more powerful. And hopefully that building is still open and operating and stuff. But I hope people can go there and not just also soak up all the great costumes and stuff, but even soak up what it means. It'd be the same, and I don't know if it's true, like if you went to see the Motown thing, I don't know if...
It's still there.
Well, I'm saying, who owns that? Is it Barry Gordy? Did he sell that? Or I think he may have sold it, but...
I don't know if he sold the building. I know he sold all the publishing and all that stuff. I don't know if he sold the building.
Right. And that's why I salute Tyler Perry. The genius and the real power of his own studio is not that, they shot da-da-da movie there. It's like, no, nigga, we own a studio. If you come to me 20 years later and say, oh, this is the Tyler Perry studio, but it's owned by Sony. Like, okay. That's cool. That's cool. But it'd be even more cooler if it said, there go Tyler right there. This is his shit. There go his they created a big business here, and all the movie companies come here because we own this. So you can go own yours too. You don't just have to be the song and dance in the front of the camera. You can also own the business part. I know I'm on my rant with that, but yeah, man.
Oh,
it's too at this point. It's already too late for the Prince estate. They got that, so it's all good. I'll just enjoy the music. Any last words to say on that? Guess not.
No.
All right, then. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to chop things up right here, and we hope you enjoyed listening to this. Big Sexy, where can I find you online?
For the present, same three haunts. Facebook, Mark Wiggins. Instagram, Mark Wiggins 2, and Twitter, WSE Mark, but there will be changes coming up within, I'd say, a 30-day window.
All right. And Poop, where can I find you, sir?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram. And in about 30 minutes, you can find me rolling through the hood of South LA on my new Segway 9-bots electric scooter.
My
Yes,
God,
Mark.
thank you.
Have mercy.
Wow. Really? Really, Mark? Really?
Oh, you heard that?
All right. Violet Brown, where can they find you online?
Instagram, it's Violet B Interactive, and then also violetbinteractive.com for now.
All right. Check us out, podcastjuice.net. Also, all your favorite social media haunts and podcast platforms. Hold on, be strong, work it like a job. We'll see you next time. Peace.